Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus, available to use online, at ATMs, or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty.
Hi there, a warm welcome to the Monday Postcast. Talking to warm, Maddie Playle is away sunning herself in Ibiza, so he's stuck with me, Bruce Millington. But the good news is we've got Tom Siegel, we've got Nick Watts, and we've got Paddy Power's Paddy Power. Here's what's coming up today. We are going to look ahead to Saturday's fabulous Champions Day at Ascot. So many superb races. Hopefully the lads are chock full of tips for that. We'll look back on the weekend just gone. I will wallow in the victory of Withhold. And we'll see what the Dewhurst fallout was, what it means for the Guineas. Hopefully the lads have got some early thoughts where the value is. And we've also got the competition. So we'll start off by asking everyone how their betting weekend was. Nick Watts, you go first. Any good?
Yeah, it was all right, actually. Yeah, US Navy flag was a good result for me. Yeah, I just went off expert, I think, partly because of the price and partly because I thought US Navy flag won't be out the three, and he was that lovely kind of 11 to 2, 6 to 1.
Dirty each way.
Dirty each way.
You call it lovely. Tom, did you win money?
I won a few quid, yeah, but not at Newmarket, at York.
Oh, did you? What was your favourite moment, betting-wise?
And the sprint handicap at York, Bruce, for me, I can't remember the name of it, Tarentum Star or something it was called.
Don't remember you tipping that.
Yeah, I did. It was in the paper.
Yeah, it was.
It was in the paper.
I did a multiple with all your selections. And I got about 2p back.
Oh, well, you missed that one.
Oh, God, I've got to do the singles. I've got to learn to do the singles. Paddy, you chopped it off for the weekend, didn't you? Thanks to your superb colleague, Mr. Hickey.
Well, it thanks to the whole group, I have to say. I listened to the postcast on Saturday morning, took a few notes, and off went. Now, the only thing like typical punter, I could just moan about, I didn't quite get them together. Did a load of multiples, but didn't quite get them together in the same multiple, but had plenty of singles as well. So, yeah, a rare, profitable weekend, which was nice. OK, well, let's hope next weekend is profitable for everyone because it is the climax to the flat season. It's British Champions Day at Ascot, now firmly established as a superb day's racing. We will look ahead to the highlight of the meeting first. It's the Champions Stakes, the Kitco Champions Stakes takes place at 350, over 10 furlongs even, and it's nice and wide open. Paddy, what's the latest betting? Yes, the latest betting is we actually have Ulysses in favourite, 11 to 4, ahead of Cracksman, who's 3 to 1. Then Barney Roy's 9 to 2. You get 8 to 1 each of Poet's Word and Bramato, and then 10 to 1 Highland Reel, Cliffs of Moher, and 12 to 1 Churchill.
Nick, before Tom tells us why he fancies Bramato, tell us who you fancy.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't fancy Cracksman back over 10 furlongs.
I agree.
Yeah.
Myth horse, an absolute myth horse.
Yeah, I think the Voltigeur that he won doesn't look half as good as it did at the time. Beat Venice Beach, he was nowhere in the St Leger, and the Niel he won last time similarly was a poor event. I think he needs every yard of a mile and a half. I think Ascot short home straight won't suit him. The drop back to a mile and 2 won't suit him, and I can see him finishing strongly, but I think others will have too much pace for him. I think he'll be fought out by Ulysses if he goes, and Barney Roy. I'd quite fancy Barney Roy, actually. I think he's had a nice light campaign. He's only run once since his eclipse in July, and that was in York, and that wasn't a bad run. Yes, he got beaten by Ulysses, but I just think the stout horse, he's danced every dance this season, hasn't he? Whether he's still in the same form, he'll have to have some constitution to come back from Paris. Tough run there and come back and win this. I think Barney Roy's been lined up for this for a long time. He was good enough to win over a mile at Royal Ascot in the summer in a Group 1, so he's got that pace as well. He's the one for me.
And what's the weather like on the farm? That's probably not too far from Ascot, the old Watts farm, is it?
Yeah, no, we're dry as a bone at the moment, Bruce.
So we're expecting decent ground?
Well, speaking like a farmer, we could do with some rain, but yeah, I think the ground will be good for Ascot at the weekend.
Yeah, it's good to firm at the moment, isn't it? Which is because you expect these races to be kind of softish, but it's good to firm at the moment, yeah.
Excellent. That means we won't be upsetting anyone at Ascot or British Champions Series by writing about wet weather and the possibility of it being off like we did that year. Oh, still getting over that. Thomas, give us your thoughts on the Champions Stakes.
Well, first of all, you might have not annoyed any of the farmers there, Watsy, but he certainly annoyed all us English scholars. Ulysses? Who's Ulysses when he's at home?
Actually,
how do you say it?
Ulysses.
Is it Ulysses?
James Joyce and his pals are in their graves.
Didn't you read Charles Dickens?
I had a chunk of Ulysses read out at my wedding as one of the readings, so I should remember that, I suppose.
Dear me.
Ulysses.
Okay, never mind the pronunciation. Who's going to win?
Well, you told me. Bramato. Look, I'm with you guys about Cracksman. I'm not sure he's a myth horse because I think he's.
No, that's a bit harsh. That is a bit harsh. But all
got...
I'm saying is that everyone suddenly got very carried away with him, and the form of the last 2 races isn't working out particularly well.
No, the form's not
very
brilliant,
good horse,
but he's a very good horse. He's definitely a Group 1 horse, isn't he? He was 3rd in the Derby, and he's won the Voltigeur and the Niel. So we're not looking about. But with the guys, I mean, he's a 1.5 mile horse on soft ground so far, isn't he? He's dropping back to 10 furlongs against horses that can run faster than him. So he's got a lot. He's got a lot to do for me to win a champion stakes. I presume John Gosden was planning on running him because he thought it'd be soft and it would blunt the speed of all the others. I like Barney Roy back at Ascot. I like as Watsy said Ulysses. But for me, I like Bramato and Poet's Word. I think they're the value in the race. I think Bramato ran an absolute blinder in the Arc. I think he would have been 3rd with a clear run. He might have had a little bit of a draw advantage there. He was drawn right down on the rail like all the 1, 2, 3 were, but he still was very unlucky not to finish 3rd. I think that's better form than Cracksman's ever performed at. And I think Poet's Word's one of those stout horses that are getting better. I was surprised to see that Ulysses was running, but after what he'd said prior to that. But Poet's Word's a horse I like, but I think he's got a bit to prove. So as you quite rightly spotted, Bruce, I like Bramato.
Okay, jolly good. Paddy, who do you like?
I would be probably just with Ulysses, just because I just thought Cracksman, totally the exact same as everybody else with regard to Cracksman, just think the trip's going to be too short and the ground's going to be too fast. So I was just with Ulysses for that reason. I see he's into 11-to-4 favourite also. There's still 5-to-1 around an odds checker. I'm not sure if it's actually still there because it's gone blue across the board, but it probably will go off favourite if not joint favourite.
Anything lurking down the end there? I'd be good if Rhododendron and Hydrangea both run again. They'd be like, if horse racing had a 6-legged race, they'd be brilliant, those two, wouldn't they? Because they run against each other so much, don't they? Is there anything, a big price we should be considering here, Watsy?
I don't think so, no. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned Rhododendron. I think she'll come into play if she goes to the fillies and mares. I think she'll take all the beating in that.
Okay, well, we'll come to that later. Let's do should we do the QE2 now? That takes place at 3:15, the mile, and Ribchester is the jolly, Paddy, yeah?
Yeah, Ribchester, one of those horses that you don't really understand why you don't really like. But Ribchester's 2-to-1 favourite. Churchill 7-2. Beat the Bank 5-1. Alwacare's 6-1, and it's 12-1 Thunder Snow, and much bigger the rest of them. So Ribchester, pretty short favourite. I
do like Ribchester. I like him very much. I didn't particularly like the jockey who was on him at Goodwood that time when it was all rainy. That wasn't very good. But I think 2-to-1's fair enough, Tom, isn't it? Or are you going to look elsewhere?
I will have to look elsewhere because I think 2-to-1's about right. I just these Aiden. I mean, what's wrong with Roly Poly?
I think there's bigger prices out there, isn't there? By the way,
what's wrong with Roly Poly if she ran? I mean, I think she just keeps getting better and better. That I know she's got a bit to prove. I think the ground's coming in her favour. She's won 3 Group 1s on the trout in quick succession now. I just think she's a filly in the top of her game. Aiden won it with the filly last year. Now, I'm not saying she's as good as Minding, but if she runs and doesn't runs here rather than going to the Breeders' Cup, I'd be quite keen on her. I think Beat the Bank's an interesting horse, but he's the sort of horse that 5-10 years ago would have been an 8 or 9-to-1 chance, and now he's 4 and 5-to-1 after, because he's stepping up in grade. He's got a bit to prove, but he's done absolutely. I'm not going to say that because I'll get in trouble with you, but he keeps on getting better rather than doing nothing wrong. So he keeps on getting better every single time, and I thought it was really impressive last time in the Group 2 at Newmarket, and he's a really good horse. But the one I backed a few weeks ago was Alwacaire. Now, I'm a bit worried that the ground's getting quick for him because I think he's a better horse on softer ground. But I think he's the type of Farber horse. French horses do have a good record at this meeting. They tend to be, at the back end in the Breeders' Cup and in the big races, they tend to have had an easier season and they come into these Ascot races on a crest of a wave. So for me, Alwacaire is an interesting horse, but I am worried about the ground for him.
What about you, Watts? Are you going to go with the jolly or are you going to look elsewhere?
No, I'm going to go with the jolly because it's one of my, I wouldn't say bet of the day because of the price is 2-to-1. I'm sure that there's other ones at bigger prices, but I think he's the most solid for me. I remember having these kind of debates before Royal Ascot and people were queuing up to take him on in the Queen Anne with Mutakaif and others, and all along I just thought he would win that, and I think he's just an underrated horse. I don't think he's appreciated, and maybe the loss at Goodwood contributed to that, but I think the conditions were farcical that day, and he showed back in France last time, that it was just a blip, and I think all ground comes alike to him. He was, so it doesn't matter what conditions are, he's a rock-solid horse. He's guaranteed to give his running, and he got within half a length of Minding last season, and if he's in that kind of form, that would be good enough to win.
I'm with you. Great case there, Nick. Well done. Paddy, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I feel a bit guilty about slagging off Ribchester now, but it's just that horse, the whole way through the season, you're kind of thinking, well, Ribchester might win at Ascot, but then later on in the season, he'll get found out by something a bit better and a bit more sexy. But yeah, I'm probably going to go with Churchill again because I'm just an idiot, and just think that the type of horse Aidan O'Brien could bring back to the boil rather again, and he could be right there in the mix, I think.
The point I'd make about Ribchester, guys, is while I'm with you entirely that he's an underrated horse, I think this is his hardest test this season. You know, he's been running against all older horses until last time, and at Goodwood. He got beat at Goodwood, now we all know that, but he didn't have a Churchill in there. The only 3-year-old in there was Lancaster Bomber. When he won at Chantilly last time, it was Robin and Navan and Inza Court and, you know, Lady. That were the only 3-year-olds he's up against. Now he's up against, you know, the Guineas winner, the Guineas third, you know, some proper good 3-year-olds. This is a bigger test for him than he's had this season. Not to say he's not up to it, but I don't think I want to back him at 2-1.
I certainly do. I love him. Competition time. Every week we give listeners the chance to win a £25 or €25 free bet. All you've got to do is answer the upcoming question correctly and tweet your answer using the hashtag Postcast to be in with a chance of winning. Today's question: Aidan O'Brien has been very much in the news at the moment. Which superstar filly did he send out to win last year's QE2? Tweet your answer using the hashtag Postcast, and the winner will be revealed in Friday's weekend tipping Postcast.
Paddy Power are offering money back as a free bet if the horse you back finishes 2nd, 3rd or 4th to the SP favourite in 2 races today and every day this month. Max £25 per race. T&C supply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Watsy, if there was only one horse you were able to watch on Saturday, who would it be?
Well, I'm very much looking forward to the sprint, so it'd be Harry Angel.
That's lucky because we're doing the sprint now.
Well done, Watsy. Brilliant. Right Genius.
On point. So let's talk about the sprint after Paddy's given us a quick show.
Yeah, Harry Angel, probably going to be the shortest price today. I would have thought 5-4 Harry Angel, Caravaggio 4-1, the 10 man 6-1, Quiet Reflection 8-1, and it is 10-1 Taz Lead and 12-1 and bigger the rest.
Watsy, the only thing that makes me think that Harry Angel isn't a certainty and isn't a fantastic value bet odds against is that sometimes with sprinters it's so precise, the timing's got to be right, the time of year's got to be right, the schedule comes into it. On bare form alone, he's just a good thing, isn't he?
There's 2 ways of looking at it. I mean, he has been beaten twice at Ascot this season, once by Caravaggio and one by Blue Point earlier in the season. But I think the thing I like about Harry Angel, I think Clive Cox has done a tremendous job of training him because at the start of the season, he always looked on the verge of boiling over. He had so much kind of testosterone going around that he looked as though, you know, he got worn down at the start. He was really buzzy and he was far too fresh when he ran against Blue Point way back at the start of the season and Blue Point beat him. I think Clive Cox, whatever he's done at home, he's managed to calm him down and he just times his efforts so much better now. He's much more relaxed in the races. That's why he's been able to improve, and that's why we saw the kind of performance he did at Haydock last time out. So I think now he's got his mind sorted out. We're seeing a sprinting superstar, and I know Tom's a big fan of Caravaggio, so something I'll have to give at the weekend. But for me, yeah, he is a short price, but I see him as reversing the form of Caravaggio and breaking his Ascot duck.
Are you not having him, Tom?
No, I love him. He's a great horse, isn't he? The thing about him is that fast ground, slow ground, whatever, he runs, you know, he's just incredibly fast, isn't he? You win the July Cup and the Haydock Sprint Cup like he does. You can't knock him in any way or form. The only thing I say is I think Caravaggio is very good too. And so far, if I'm sitting here saying one's evens and one's 4-1 or whatever Paddy said then, I'd always back the 4-1 shot. Now,
how are you going to explain away that mid-season loss of form then, Tom?
Well, Aidan would explain it by dodgy feet or dodgy shoes or something like that. But if you go back to the Ascot form, now I know that was a funny race. They went too hard and it probably wasn't Harry Angel at his best. But Caravaggio is 2 from 2 at Ascot. You know, I'm not in Gordon Strachan's way of thinking that it's all about genetics and they can't win anything. But Scat Daddy does have a tremendous record at Ascot. And his horses run very well. The Caravaggio's unbeaten there. If ever he'll beat Harry Angel again, it will be on Saturday, I think, because I think he's just going to, you know, he's had a perfect prep into the race. He won over 5 furlongs. He's coming back. He looked like he was back to form. Harry Angel's clearly improved since he got beaten by Caravaggio in the Commonwealth Cup, but I don't think there's as much between them as the prices would suggest. Certainly not 4-1 and even money. If you say, if I had to have money on one for my life, which one's going to win, I'd say Harry Angel. But if I'm looking in with my value eyes, I think Caravaggio's the bet.
And Tom, I know that you get it scares the crap out of you with the way racing's being bred for speed and all that kind of thing. You're very, but you must be looking forward to fabulous, display of speed like this.
Well, the point is you're right, Bruce. The thing is that we're breeding horses to be good at this sort of distance, aren't we? So consequently, we are getting sprinters, a quality of sprinter that we've never had before. They are incredibly good horses, Harry Angel, Caravaggio, Blue Point, Limato. They are as good as we've seen for many, many years. So to sit here and say I don't like watching them is definitely not true. They are brilliant horses. What's happened is we've sacrificed a good amount of staying horses for these sprinters. But
we better enjoy them then, hadn't we?
Yeah, so let's get along there and watch them, because you're not going to see Harry Angel versus Caravaggio very often, that's for sure. They're two superstars.
Patriotic Paddy, are you going for Caravaggio?
No, I just think, obviously you see it on the Ascot angle, but the careers seem to have gone in different directions. It's the other way you played football or rugby with somebody like in school or something like that, and they went off and played for Ireland, and you went off and just went on the beer. Like that seems to be what's happened with Harry Angel and Caravaggio. Harry Angel's gone onwards and upwards, and Caravaggio has just kind of gone a bit samey or a bit downhill over the summer. So I just think it's very hard to argue with what Harry Angel's done. It's just it's right there in your face, and it's as plain as the nose in your face.
What do you think Caravaggio's tipple might be, Paddy? Do you think he likes a couple of too many Guinnesses? Is that what you're saying?
I'd say he likes a really, really expensive red wine.
Oh, okay.
Just has that look about him.
Paddy, have you ever played rugby or any sport with any great player?
I have, funny enough. Yeah, I was lucky enough to play rugby with a few people who ended up internationals, like Dennis Hickey and Malcolm O'Kelly and a few of those lads. And our careers went in very different paths from the age of about 20 onwards.
What about you, Tom? You must have had some decent sporting contemporaries, didn't you?
Yeah, cricketers, plenty of cricketers. The Hollyoaks, Ali Brown, few of those lads that played for England. Yeah, they were all my contemporaries.
How about you, Watsy?
Yeah, I played against Marcus Trescothic.
Did you?
He actually stumped me. He got me out.
Did he really?
He was a wicketkeeper back in the day. And
that's his claim to fame. Do you
Charging down the track at one
that's in his autobiography, the day you stumped Nick Watts?
Yeah, so that'll be it for me.
I played an under-11s match once against a guy who scored 5 goals. Against the team, they beat us 8-0, and this guy scored 5, and the coach said afterwards, I've got that kid's name. He's so good, he's going to be a superstar. David Rocastle.
Oh, yeah.
He was good even then. Right, anything else at Ascot catch your eye? We've got the Stayers, we've got the Fillies, and we've got the Balmoral. So, Nick, take us through where there might be some value lurking.
Well, I like the last race, the handicap. It's always a good one to have a go at. And also David Ellsworth, speculative bid. I think he's a double-figure price. I just noted him putting in some good late work in the race that Accidental Agent won a couple of weeks ago at Ascot. He's got a really, really good record on the track. And if he doesn't bounce, because that was his first run for a long time, then I think he's a bit of value. And Elsy's in good form at the moment. This isn't particularly good value, but I think Order of St George will win the Group 2 as he didn't do last season. He comes into it in much better form this time. And I also mentioned just briefly before Rhododendron, I think if she goes to Fillies and Mares, she seems to be right back on track.
OK, Tom, anything else at Ascot you like?
Our pal in the paper this morning, Dave Orton, suggested that Stradivarius was quite a good bet in the first race, and I think I agree with him. Yeah, the 3-year-olds have won the Goodwood Cup, won the Doncaster Cup this year. I think he ran his best ever race in the in the St Leger last time. I thought that was just the best St Leger I've seen for many years. I thought Stradivarius ran his best race there when he was third to Capri. And Crystal Ocean, I like him a lot back at Ascot, and I think the faster ground will give him the edge over Order of St George. So I'm agreeing with our pal in the paper this morning.
OK, and Paddy, anything else from you?
Yeah, 2 for me. I like Coronet in the Fillies and Mares, and I think just the drop back of trips could be ideal for her. And then I thought that what's the other race? The handicap, the Balmoral handicap. Just the favourite there is Zabeel Prince, absolutely hacked up, didn't he? A £6 penalty. I think it's pretty lenient. It could be one of a few group horses in handicap in that particular Balmoral, I think.
Tom, I was looking at that handicap. What did you make of Lord Glitters? Ran a really eye-catching debut for O'Mara, didn't he? In that race behind Accidental Thing.
I think the point about a lot of this handicap form, and talking about the horse Paddy mentioned there, it was all on softish ground. I know it wasn't very soft at York on Saturday, but it was soft ground when Lord Glitters ran, and he's an ex-French horse. If it is good to firm on Saturday, I think I loved Lord Glitters with you. He was one of the eye catchers of the week. Whether he's quite as effective on fast ground, I don't think anyone knows yet. So it'll be interesting that the ground conditions will play a factor. But if I think we did this a few weeks ago, and I think universally we all sort of noticed Lord Glitters as a potential big handicap winner for sure. If it's not today, it might be the Lincoln in March.
OK, we're going to try and unravel the 2,000 guineas puzzle next.
Paddy Power are offering money back as a free bet if the horse you back finishes second, third or fourth to the SP favourite in 2 races today and every day this month. Max £25 per race. T&Cs apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hi there, it's Bruce Millington, Nick Watts, Tom Siegel and Paddy Powers. Paddy Power. OK, so we had the Dewhurst on Saturday. It didn't pan out as expected. Expert Eye bombed out. And US Navy Flag having his 38th run as a 2-year-old won. Just proving what a genius Aidan O'Brien is. What does it all mean, Paddy Power, in terms of the 2,000 guineas betting?
It means that, really weirdly, we're going into the off-season without a sexy, hot favourite for the guineas, which is unusual. It's like the Arkle or something, having a 14-1 to field Arkle over the summer. So we got US Navy Flag as favourite at 7-1. Gustav Klimt is 8-1. Got 10-1 Expert Eye, 10-1 Saxon Warrior, 12-1 Verbal Dexterity, which all means we don't have a rashers, to be honest, what's going on in the 2,000 guineas. For me personally, I think it's pretty hard to just completely forgive Expert Eye for that run. So I think there's question marks about everything. US Navy Flag wouldn't have been, I mean, the form, who knows what the form's going to work out like, but the fact that the second horse was so close.
If you had to have a bet now, Paddy, who would you go for?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe could you hope for soft ground and go for Verbal Dexterity or something like that? But I don't know. Probably I'd do something stupid like that. But I'd normally.
There's nothing stupid about that, mate. Yeah. There's nothing stupid about that because I do think it's a difficult race. But I really like Verbal Dexterity. I thought he looked decent. I don't know why we didn't see him at the weekend, but hopefully he's still very much in the Guineas picture. Watsy, what do you make of it all?
I think the reason we didn't see him was probably just a ground thing, wasn't it? I think he just wanted a bit of soft, and that you'd have to say that might be unlikely in Newmarket in April. I think the only point I'd make about US Navy Flag, he has ran a lot of times this season. I think it took him 4 times to get off the mark, but the Guineas next, whether it is end of April, beginning of May, it just comes so soon for these 3-year-olds that a lot of them aren't ready for it. And even if they run in it, they don't show their best until later in the season. So the advantage you've got with US Navy Flag is he's got all the experience that he needs. He's got all the tools of his trade. He is what he is. But as long as he has, makes it safely through the winter, he's going to be there raring to go, ready, absolutely wired for his life.
It's just not the profile of a Guineas winner, though, is it?
It's not. But
all those runs.
But if anyone can do it, Aidan can. And I remember a few years ago, a 1,000 Guineas winner called Homecoming Queen, who looked horribly exposed as a 2-year-old, and she's one that other horses caught up with her over the season. That was very much her day at Newmarket, and I could see US Navy Flag doing something similar before these slower maturing types go sailing past him, from midsummer onwards.
So if I pressed a crisp tenner into your mitt, you'd back it US Navy Flag, would you?
I think I would, because Gustav Klimt, what's happened to him? He's been injured for a long time, so he's got a bit of ground to make up. Expert Eyes, we talked about, very, very disappointing the weekend. Back to the drawing board for him. You're hoping for soft ground with Verbal Dexterity. It might not be a strong race. And Saxon Warrior, I think Paddy mentioned as well, that's got to be on Aidan's shortlist for the Derby and longer trips, you would think.
Tom, can you make sense of it all?
No, clearly not. The thing about US Navy, just Ryan Moore was sensational on him again. He was exactly the same on Roly Poly the week before. It was clearly a great help to be up front on that rail, wasn't he? And
as he explained so eloquently afterwards.
I thought he was funny, wasn't he? He was clear.
I didn't find that funny.
No, not funny at all.
But it was that funny at all. Why can't you just answer an intelligent question a little bit more eloquently than that? I
didn't mean funny as
no,
in
no,
but
funny. Everyone else did. Everyone else thought it was absolutely fantastic. I sat there and thought, can't you just explain it a little bit more clearly for racing fans so they can be a bit more engaged with the sport?
Yeah.
Clearly. Sorry, anyway, go on.
Clearly, but the point is, he was brilliant, wasn't he? He got the position that everyone else in the race should have wanted. Jim Crowley, Frankie, they're all out in the swamp in the middle, which makes me think that the horse finished third in the race, Sea Henge, who won the Doncaster race, is a lot better than he showed that day. I know he was beaten 2.5 lengths, 3 lengths, whatever he was in the end, but I think he has the ability to become a Guineas a factor in the Guineas on that run. Simply because he must have been, he gave him 5 lengths start and was beaten 5 lengths despite racing on slower ground. So therefore, I'd give him a chance. I also like Mark Johnson's horse, LR Cam, who is by Frankel out of attraction, absolutely bred to be a Guineas winner. Looked really good when he won the Somersville Tattersall's. I think he is going to improve into a definite Guineas horse. And the thing I keep thinking, I watched the Dewhurst again today, is that Aiden had the 1, 2, 3, 4. I reckon he could have run 20 in the race, and he could have had a 1, 2, 3, 4 with any different combination he wanted. I think he's got so many there that I doubt he knows who his Guineas horse is yet, let alone us trying to guess it here.
I've got to say, though, Tom, normally when we get to to Dewhurst time, we look back and we can say, OK, right, that looks really good, that looks great. It's a little bit disappointing, isn't it, this crop?
Yes, it is. It is a little bit disappointing, but I think this goes back to my point we were talking about the genetics, the old Gordon Strachan thing. I think it's very hard these days to break into the top class races because it's impossible to buy a good horse, Bruce. They're all by Galileo, Dubawi, Warfront, Scat Daddy. And if you don't have one of them, you struggle. It's as simple as that in the top races. And people cannot buy into. They tried it with, expert eyes by acclamation. I know it's boring. I know it's a pedigree thing. But how many acclamations beat Galileos and Dubawis over a mile? Very, very few. You're statistically trying to find a needle in a haystack. And I think that's the case. I think what happens is that Aiden, undoubtedly the best trainer in the world by a country mile, but he does have the best ammunition by a country mile. It's like putting Lewis Hamilton in a Force India and saying, go and win the Monaco Grand Prix. He's not going to do it. He can't do it because they haven't got the ammunition. And I think that's the case with all the other trainers. I think very occasionally you get an Enable. Very occasionally you get a Galileo Gold who can come up and split the atom. But it's really, really hard to do. And I think that's why Aiden is in he's a brilliant trainer because he never messes them up. And they've, to get the 1, 2, 3, 4 in any race is hard. But he has had a massive advantage because he's just got the best horses that can run the fastest. And if you gave Roger Charlton after, for example, we'll go on to him in a minute with Withhold, some of the ammunition, I'm pretty sure he'd do pretty well too.
Absolutely. Watsy, how many classics, how many of the 5 British classics will Aiden win next year? If you were pricing it up, you wouldn't be far short of making 4 favourite, would you?
Yeah, he's done 4 quite a few times now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And the year that he had, it was the year he had Camelot, wasn't it, of course, that he was going for the 5-timer. It's perfectly possible because, as Tom's just said, Aiden has hordes of horses who can go and win classics. Other trainers have maybe 1 or 2 in their stable at most.
Well, let's talk about a trainer who is making absolutely massive breakthroughs on the Group 1 scene, and that's Carl Burke, of course, and Lawrence, who won the Fillies Mile on Friday very impressively. What's the latest on the 1,000, please, Pad?
So we have Clemmy as favourite at 3-1. Happily is 5-1. September's 10-1. Lawrence is the next. Well, he's not actually, or she's not rather. Wild Illusion is the next 16-1. Then Lawrence is 20-1 along with Polly Dream, and a host of others are 20-1 as well. So she's still an outsider for the 1,000. And as you said a minute ago, Aidan O'Brien certainly has his hands around the throat of the 1,000 guineas.
He sure does. Have you got a strong view on the 1,000 at this stage? Can Lawrence break into that elite group?
I don't have a particular view on her, but I do on that race because it was the 3rd one for me. Magic Lily, Godolphin's horse, who was the massive eye catcher for me. She was coming straight from a maiden. She lacked the experience of the front 2, and she's bred to be
had to come off the Golden Highway.
Yeah, and she's bred to be an Oaks filly because her dam was an Oaks filly, Dancing Rain, who won the Oaks. Her dad, New Approach, won the Derby. You don't get much better breeding for the Epsom Classic than that, and she ran really, really well. She's going to be a middle distance horse next season. And we were just talking about Aidan O'Brien's stranglehold on the classics. The one organisation that have got the ability to break that down, or the funding to break that down, is Godolphin, and they've gone missing for many years in the classics now. But I just get the feeling that they've sorted themselves out and they're going to come back. And Magic Lily is bred to be brilliant. And on that performance, I think she could be very good next season.
But that's more from an Oaks perspective than the
Oaks
Guineas.
Than 1,000 Guineas, yeah.
Tom, what do you reckon?
Clemmy will win. Happily will be 2nd. And whichever run Aiden wants to run can finish 3rd.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I just think they're too good.
Paul Keeley thinks that Clemmy's actually a bet at 3-1. Now, he's not one to tie his money up for more than 20 minutes, let alone 6 months. But
I read Keel's thing. I couldn't agree more. If you go back through Galileo's, I'm a bit of a pedigree nerd, so you go back through Galileo's history. I think it might be the only 6-furlong winner he's ever sired, Clemmy. She's got to be absolutely sensational. She was really, really good the other day. There's no doubt she'll stay a mile. Happily back on fast ground will probably be 2nd. September could be 3rd, and he's probably got Bye Bye Baby in there to finish 4th if he wants. I don't think it's even a contest. I think I get where Nick's coming about Wild Lily for the Oaks, but there's no way she'll beat the Ballydoyle battalions when she gets there.
And a quick word on Lawrence, Tom.
I think she was really good. I think she's got an Oaks chance. Once again, she got on the Golden Highway and just managed to fend off the September, who I think is probably their 4th or 5th best. You know, Ballydoyle's 4th or 5th best. So she's a very, very nice filly. Carl Burke has done wonders with her. Do I think she'll beat the Ballydoyle battalions? I don't think she's got a prayer.
Paddy Power, who wins the 1,000 guineas?
Probably Clemmy, and actually, I was taken with September as an Oaks filly because I thought that she was disappointing on the soft and heavy ground, but like the step up to middle distance will absolutely ideal for her. So I think September is one for me for the Oaks, but I think Clemmy, I agree with Tom on that. It's kind of straightforward enough.
Right then, obviously we had 2 fantastic days at Chepstow, didn't we? Over the stick. So please, chaps, give me a jumper to follow that ran at Chepstow. What have you got?
Can I give you one from Exeter?
Yeah, of course you can, yeah.
The Harry Fry horse called If the Cap Fits won really, really nicely. It was quite a strong novice hurdle. Beat one of Nichols's in second, jumped really well, always had the race under control. He, remember that name, put it in the tracker because I think he will go on to great things.
I've forgotten it already. What's it called?
If the Cap Fits,
right,
Harry Fry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom, what was your jumper that caught your eye?
Bit biased, but I thought Paul Nicholls' horse yesterday that won the handicap chase, Roman de Senam, looked like it had about 4 stone in hand. I know it's rated 133. He said after the race that he was going to go for a conditions race with it.
What could he end up achieving, this horse?
Well, I think he could run in a Paddy Power and be very competitive, even if he goes up a stone. I think he'll end up at Cheltenham in one of those big handicaps. He might even be better over 3 miles in time. These Nicholls horses tend to improve when he steps up. I think seriously good horse him, and I think he'll win lots of good races. The other one I liked was Gamble in the juvenile hurdle. I don't know if you saw it. The big grey horse of Terry Warner's, just like lots. You know, Philip Hobbs, very good with these. Detroit City, that's what I mean. Very good with these juvenile hurdles. Defi de Sol last year. Gamble didn't won what I thought was an exceptionally good race, juvenile hurdle for the time of the year, and he won it without coming off the bridle and jumping a bit scratchily. So
he jumped scratchily, did it? Because Frank Hickey put him up in the. He said he's not going to be a horse to bet because he's going to be too short. But on Friday, he said he's jumping at Stratford first time. It was absolutely superb. So
correct, it was. But he was a bit scratchy on Saturday, Sunday, whichever day it was. But I think he's really good. I think no doubt at all he'll end up running in the Triumph.
And Tom,
no doubt at all.
Don't forget, mate, it's 2017. It's not called the Paddy Power anymore. No, they sponsor the show.
That was good, though, wasn't it?
Paddy,
what do you reckon?
What chance have you got with the Hennessy?
I was about to correct you with Bet Victor. Yeah, poor old Victor.
Which year will you stop calling it the Hennessy, Tom?
What is it now? You'll have to tell me. I don't know.
It's the Ladbrokes Handicap.
The Ladbrokes Handicap. I'll probably start calling it that. Or 2032 is probably a guess.
Well, we stopped sponsoring the Racing Post Chase about 7 years ago, and everyone still calls it that. So it's worth sponsoring the race. Paddy, any thoughts on the jump scene from what you saw at the weekend?
Yes, so Roman de Snam definitely is the one for the Bet Victor Go Cup. I think and I agree with Tom. You're going to go up a bit of stones. It might be as thrown in, but possibly still has plenty in hand. I thought that Finian's Oscar didn't learn a huge amount, but it's going to be one of those ones, just like last year, we come to Cheltenham, it looks like a JLT horse, but because, as I was saying earlier, there's no real Arkle horse at the moment, so might be, you're wondering which race it's going to go for. And I was really taken with, do you remember Vision de Flow? It was the one that Frank Hickey was talking about on the thing that came from Robert Tyner's, won the Punchestown bumper last year, and it was a drifter from 2-1 out to 4-1 or something, ended up finishing third, I think, but just travelled so well and jumped into the race so well and so easy and just got tired towards the end, clearly wasn't fit. For another Colin Tizard, good horse to come. So Vision de Flow, I thought was an eye catcher. And I agree with Tom about Gumball, just like made loads of mistakes, but then just had the engine underneath him just to get back on the bridle straight away. So obviously a very, very good horse. So yeah, so there's loads. It was actually a really good weekend's racing. It
certainly was. And talking of Frank Hickey, the reason I'm slightly Bonnie Tylerish today is that between 3:40 and 3:45 on Saturday, I think the most incredible 5 minutes I was watching Withhold bolt up. And if you listened to Frank Hickey on Friday, and I know a lot of you did, because I think he was virtually trending on Twitter afterwards because so many people had backed this horse. He would not hear of defeat for Withhold. Smashed up from 12-1 to 5-1. And at the same time, I was at Selhurst Park watching Wilfred Zaha score the winner for Palace against Chelsea. Tom, what did you make of Withhold?
Wilfred Zaha? Well, it's about time he came back, wasn't it, for you Palace fans?
It was. But what about Withhold in the Brighton colours of Tony Bloom?
Yeah, well, it was clearly a brilliant training performance, wasn't it? I love I love things like, I mean, people always say, oh, why didn't you? We don't know how good he is. Everyone backed him, apart from me. Everyone knew he was going to win, and there was never a man went stone. It was brilliant training, brilliant ride from Sylvester. One thing to say, we're all sitting there mucking and worrying about the draw again. It paid to be drawn high. Everyone's sitting there. It drives me mad, people talking about the draw all the time when these things change it by the day, let alone, people going back 20 years for when the draw was important in a race like that. But there we go. But I thought it was brilliant. Wasn't it great? I think we've struggled with that a bit this flat season, Bruce, if I'm being honest. Those big handicaps, I think they make the season for a lot of punters and a lot of racing fans. Yeah. And when you're having 50 to 1 after 50 to 1 after 50 to 1, it gets a bit depressing. You stop betting, don't you? Because you don't think you got a chance.
Well, I looked, Tom, at we get a little bit of visibility because obviously some betting takes place on our mobile app, and I get to see the odd figure. And Paddy, you'll probably bet this out. I thought with Expert Eye getting ironed out that Saturday would have been a decent day for the bookmakers, but it absolutely wasn't, was it, Pad?
Yeah, but you see, when you get it, it's like you remember a few years ago, or was it 2 years ago, wasn't it? Ryan Moore rode, was it a 4 at Ascot or something like that, and he was going to go through the card one of the days, and that would have been like Ruby going through the card at Cheltenham squared, because at Cheltenham it was like 5 to 4, 6 to 4, whatever, but at Ascot it was 9 to 2, 4 to 1, 5 to 1. So a horse like a bit old, everyone's on him. He's a jolly, but he's 5 to 1 jolly. He's not like 5 to 4 jolly. So it really is expensive with one of those lands. So yeah.
Paddy, I don't know if you agree with me, but it's quite difficult to do that these days, isn't it? In the days when you guys are betting on every race from months in advance and every Monday, and when you've got the exchanges and everything, it's quite hard to land a big gamble in these big handicaps to the exclusion of any others in the race, if you see what I mean. It used to happen a lot more 10 years ago, and so...
Good old-fashioned gamble.
Yeah, it was. It's hard to do these days. It's hard to get a horse like that into the race, for starters.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it, now? They're so compressed, aren't they?
Exactly.
You've got to have shown your hand just to get a run. Watsy, a quick word on Sylvester de Sousa. I mean, Steve Dennis wrote a great column recently just about, why don't we love Sylvester de Sousa more? He's some jockey, isn't he?
Listen, I was thinking exactly the same thing after he rode with Hold, because I think because he's such a modest chap, and you see him riding around Catterick and the likes of that, we underappreciate him massively. And I really hope that this is kind of, if he's happy doing that and winning championships year after year, that's great. But we want to see him at the major races. And like when Royal Ascot comes around next year, I want to see him with a full book of rides every day. I don't want to see him at Catterick or Pontefract or somewhere like that. He deserves to be in these Group 1s. And I always think the best jockeys are the ones that make the least mistakes. And I used to love Johnny Murtagh for that reason, because I think, by and large, he pretty much got it right a lot of the time. And I think de Sousa, when he's on a fancied horse, he gets it right an awful lot of the time as well. So he's a real punter's pal. And Tom, you're a massive aficionado of the jockey. You place more importance on jockeys than anyone else I know. What do you reckon as to SDS?
Well, it's not been the best flat season I've ever had, but I'm going to win a fair chunk of it back on SDS winning the champion jockey. I think he's just outstanding. We've had a few, no name, well, maybe names mentioned. We've a few ropey. I can't imagine who you're thinking of. A few ropey champion jockeys over the past. He is not one of them. And what he does better than anyone else is he keeps it simple. So who should be employing him next year then? I personally think he probably doesn't want anyone to employ him, because I think he absolutely relishes the situation he's in. Yeah, you reckon he likes schlepping back from Wolverhampton at 10 o'clock on a Saturday? I think that's his game. Of course he doesn't. No one likes that. He does. He loves it. I've got a little bit of inside information with Sylvester. He's absolutely mad for riding winners. He cannot get enough of it. He'd go to Catterick for one if he thought he was going to win at the moment. Now, that might change when you might have kids coming. I don't know. But at the moment, he is absolutely loving riding all these winners. I don't know whether that will continue. I probably won't if he gets stuck at the M25 for much longer. What price did you back him at the start of the season? I think it was about 3 to 1. 3 to 1, well 3 to 1, something like that. I mean, it was just a good bet, because unfortunately, the second Fav had absolutely no chance, and it was just, Jim Crowley. Once you get a job like he's got, you compete for the Jockeys Championship, because you end up going to ride one for Hamdan at Windsor or something, rather than going for 4 good chances at. Okay, chaps. One more for the tracker. Paddy, you got anything for me? No. Okay, Watsy, anything else? No, as soon as you forgot it earlier, they'll reiterate that if the cap fits. If the cap fits, yeah, well, again, I've forgotten it twice. And Tom, anything else that caught your eye over the weekend that punters should think about for the I liked the weeks? Michael Stout filly that won the maiden. Was it on the Friday? Was it Voracious? Frankel filly who won a maiden at Newmarket And once again, it was Ryan Moore, and once again, she had the advantage of coming up the rail. But I thought she was really impressive. She won by 4, and I think she'll win a group race next year.
Thank you very much, chaps. If you like the shows, do please review and subscribe on iTunes. We're back on Thursday with the football postcast. I'll be back on Friday. Is Frank the Tank definitely booked in, Jack? He is. The thumb is up. So, good news. The hottest tipster of the moment, even hotter than Tom Siegel, Frank the Tank Hickey, is back on Friday. We're going to have another look into the intricacies of the Champions Day card. Do please join us for that.
Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus. Available to use online, at ATMs, or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty.